Hello everyone, my name is Olivia Radecki, and this is my final demo for 4350 Introduction to Game Engine Design project. As you can see, I have two versions of my module running, one on the left and one on the right. The one on the right is the executable, and the one on the left is the solution. Remember to follow the instructions in the README of the GitHub repo if you want to set this up yourself. But as you can see, I've deleted a file in the instanced assets, so if I go over to here, you only see the tiles category and one object there, but I haven't deleted it here. That's so I can show off a feature, and the reason it appears there is because it unfortunately MGUI will find the first instance of MGUI being run and then just put it there. But you can see that this also has category F, Lizard Mage low poly body underscore colors 1. So we're going to go ahead and put that in the other instance. But this is just to show that when you create an instance or you import any assets, it will save those. So when doing that, you can go into assets and click create asset from object and texture and click whichever one you want. So we want Lizard Mage low poly and body colors. And we're just going to do F. Now you can set any rotation you want, and it will store that rotation as the default rotation when instancing the model. You can only select X and Y rotation here, and I decided to do that because that's kind of how Dungeons & Dragons works, and this is meant to model Dungeons & Dragons. And as you can see, I have a preview of the asset right here, and I think that just helps people actually see what's going on. So you can see wherever the asset would be rotated. You can, let's say you want a different texture. So on the default texture, it's kind of boring for this model. So we are going to go with body colors 1. But once you confirm, now it's in the assets, and both of these have the same assets now. So now if we go over and we click 9 on both modules, that enables networking. And if I come back over here so I can reset my camera, I'm going to provide a label for an asset. I'm just going to call it tile. And then I'm going to instance it as a tile. And you can see it goes over to both. And the cool thing about this is that when I'm clicking, it places it where I want it. But here, now that I've changed my camera angle, I'm going to go ahead and do tile 2. You can't reuse a name. That way you know when an asset was instanced. It gives a little more help when finding assets. So I'm going to click this again. And if you click tile selected, and I click on this side, it will instance a tile connected right there, flush with the wall. If I click right here, it's just the same thing. If I click on the ground, it just places it wherever. And if you look below, I've actually gone ahead and make sure that assets are instanced with the proper offset. You can see that even though this grass is really thin, if we go to the edge of it, which will take a little while, but you can see it's really thin, the offset is pretty small. I've added an offset only for the grass of 0.1 because even when adding the grass's height, it's so small that the models would have poked through. So I just added an offset in that case. This is what I'm most proud of. It took me a lot of time to get all the assets to properly move when you click the right spot. I'm not most proud of the grass part. I'm most proud of instancing an asset, so clicking here and an asset going right there, properly aligned. This took me a while because I had to do many steps. I had to find both assets' dimensions, where I clicked, and compare if it was more in this direction or this direction. And I did that with absolute values so I could actually see if I wanted to do in the X or Y offset. And then if it was negative or positive, that just told me in which of the two directions after finding X or Y. And then from there, I just took, say, width, for example, of both objects, added them together, and divided by 2, or averaged them, and that's the offset of the objects. So if we go over here and instance instead, Lizard Mage, we're just going to call it Mage. And make sure you click non-tile, Now you can see when you do this, it's going to place an asset in the center of a tile if you have a tile. And if you don't have a tile, I'm actually just going to type in a bunch of random characters because I don't actually care. It's just going to place it wherever. Now, if I go ahead and pull that back up. So the reason that asset menu went away is because I'm using split screen. It doesn't do that unless you use split screen, and I'm just doing that so you can see this better. So if I click on an object, you can see that after I get the thing back, it selected the asset, and now I can delete it or rotate it. So I'm going to show the rotation and modifying position first. I've gone ahead and modified that position, and it does it in both modules. Let's get that asset menu back. Remember, I selected this, so it's still selected. I can also select it from this drop-down menu, but it gets a little confusing because if you keep clicking with your the left click on the mouse, it will instance more assets until you right-click and click cancel. Right-click is the cancel. But let's just show that obviously you can clearly see I'm still going on the same asset. Delete asset. It goes away from both scenes. And that's pretty much my game. Audio does work, so if I show audio, let's just show it on this because it's easier. Now, I don't have audio automatically being imported, but it's not that hard to add it. And the reason I didn't do this is just for timing's sake. I had one feature I wanted to add where it saves game states, but I didn't do that just for time's sake so I could study for finals. So let's just play the hearth. And it's quite quiet, but I'll be quiet so you can hear it. You can stop audio playback, and that is a two-dimensional sound, so it's just a background sound. And the reason I allowed people to instance their own assets is because I've seen a lot of applications that require you to get paid DLC to instance more assets. So that's the whole point of this project, is that you can use any asset you want as long as you have the rights to it. And these assets I did find online for free that I was allowed to use. So that's why I'm using these assets specifically and nothing else. Let's see. For third-party libraries, all I used is Erklang, which wasn't very hard to set up, and everything else is just my own code, and of course the game engine that already existed on top of that we had to expand for the project. Cool. Well, thanks for watching.